So let's talk about why people wanted this unholy alliance between the two of us.
Let's talk about that professional intro. You got all this music going, you got all these clips. We're like, yeah, let's get into it. Then you're like, all right, let's talk about why we're having a conversation today.
So how do you feel about the
Let's change
Republic
gears.
of Czechoslovakia and how they...
We were getting a little bit too excited there for a second. Let's bring the fun level way down.
Let me take it down a little bit. Let me start again. Okay, greetings,
to a very
everyone.
serious conversation.
Serious. Welcome to a one-on-one. Today is Friday, June 10th, and with me today is Karl from Who Are These Podcasts?
That's right. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Monique.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. Can you tell me what prompted you to reach out to me? I'm kind of curious.
Well, I actually reached out to you a couple of years ago to come on Who Are These Podcasts.
After you ripped me a new
I don't
asshole.
remember.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's funny. I went back and I listened to our episode on Radio Gunk today to prepare for this conversation. I thought we were actually pretty fair.
I think you were pretty fair.
I didn't know your name, so I called you Dummy.
You called me Dummy.
I didn't know what your name was. But other than that, I thought we had some pretty good critiques.
Called Radio Gunk. This podcast was 5 hours long. Oh, my God. They play clips of Howard Stern, and then these three hosts. I didn't catch their names. I'm going to call the woman Dummy. There's so much shit wrong with this show. They hate Howard.
Do they hate him, though?
Well, they're obsessed with him.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Why are we talking about this? Howard's first wife, what year they started dating in college? This is how deep these guys get. Oh. They're super obsessed with the show. They play clips of Howard Stern and talk about them. First of all, we're hearing them figure this all out in real time. Like, can you go back and edit this shit out where they're going, wait, so which file is it? Do I download the one that's .wave?
Yeah.
Or what are we talking about?
Or maybe your fucking podcast wouldn't need to be over 2 hours.
It's over 2 fucking hours. What we do on WATP, we do a service to the people.
Yeah,
we take
damn it,
clips
it's
of
a
shows
service.
and just play a clip. These assholes play the entire fucking show.
Yeah.
This podcast is 2 hours and 17 minutes long. If Howard Stern sucks so bad, why are we putting out 2-hour-long podcasts about this fucking guy? I didn't understand it. I'm not understanding what the point is.
In the beginning, the first half
See,
hour
this is
of the
even
show,
too long.
I was like, I don't
It's a
know,
minute.
I have to
actually
play it
like
again.
this
You
show.
dragged it on
I
like
was
a
kinda
dog with no
thinking
legs.
It was a
Calling
similar
me a
vibe
dummy.
to our show.
So, so I'm going to tell you that I did listen to it for the first time, just a little bit ago, and wanted to prep some clips on it. But then I was like, fuck it. He called me dummy. He thought we were shit, and that's okay. I can own that.
I gave you some compliments too. I think that's the one thing about Who Are These Podcasts is that though we treat it like a roast and it's a roast style show, and that's what your show is too, and I appreciate that. And that's one of the things I said. So I really appreciate the format. Is we do try to give tips. I've had dozens of people tell me that I've helped them improve their podcast with my critiques of their shows. And when I was listening about this, I'm like, Monique probably should maybe take a note or two. We actually had a couple of good ideas for around here.
Kinda. You know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. It's it's that we've been doing this show since podcasting is the thing, right? So we started the show where everybody I would say I'm doing a podcast to would say, fuck is a podcast? Had no idea what it was. We've been doing it for like 6 years now. I have gone through, I can't tell you how much equipment. I have gone through so much shit. And, we laugh at ourselves. We are in on the joke. We get, how our show is. We get it. And it's just come to a point where the show is like just a bunch of people hanging out in a living room. It's my Puerto Rican Italian family sitting around at Thanksgiving and just bullshitting with each other. And yeah, I hate the fucking talking over each other more than life itself. But I'm at that point where I just, it's like, fuck it. It's a thing we do as a labor of love at this point, and that's it. That's how we roll.
You had Stuttering John on the show recently, and John just recently blocked you, and that's kind of why I wanted to come on and talk to you a little bit.
Yeah, we want to talk about that too.
One of the things that he said to you was, oh shit, now I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, you go.
See what happens?
See what happens?
Well, I'm going to tell you what happens. So when people found out that you were coming on my show, this whole love-hate thing started going on too. It's kind of weird. And the trolls started coming out of their little fucking hidey holes to start, I don't know, threatening me,
What?
Oh my God, yes.
People were threatening you. Like what?
Just to come after me. And you know what? I've been down the troll pipe hole several times, so I don't really take it
That's what I was going to say, by the way,
seriously.
is you told John that once you stop caring, you have power over the
Yes.
trolls. And I wanted to ask you if you really feel that way.
Yes.
Like, good. I'm glad to hear that.
You have to. You have to feel that way. You can't.
Exactly.
You can't care about what people say about you. And the one person who told me this was Grillo. He's like, Mo, seriously, they're coming after you hard. You just need to, you can't have thick skin. You have to have dragon skin. You have to have like impenetrable, not give a shit skin. I mean, I had people, would call my mother, let her know that I died. I had people who would take pictures outside of my office and say, "This is where you work."
I had
right?
tons of thousands of people trying to get me fired from my job. So I'm
Yeah. So
I'm
what
with
do you do about that? Like, what
do you do about that? It
No,
sucks.
what do you do about that? Like, at what point, like when you started your show, when did the hate start coming? Like,
Well, the hate really started coming when we did this show called The Vanished. The host of the show was not happy with us. And so she has enough people on Twitter and Facebook that she was able to mobilize, like I said, tens of thousands of people to start contacting my company and my business partners and try to get me fired. And what I did was I pulled the episode down because I'm like, well, this isn't worth it. And I put out a whole episode admitting defeat. I'm like, you guys beat me, all right? And the
Did
episode's
you
down.
really?
Yeah, it's like, what am I gonna do? I can't take on 20,000 people. You win. All right, you got me.
okay.
Good. Good job.
I give up. I mean, and I have to tell you, he, John is one of those friends where, to call him a friend is to say, okay, wishes me a Merry Christmas. I say same to you. Always wants me to come on his show. I rarely ask him to come on my show because, I know that it's going to be kind of one-sided. I know that, he's going to kind of repeat a lot of things that he's said in the past. It's going to be one of those kind of shows.
It's a lot of work for you.
It's always a lot of work. And I feel like, I feel like I just humor it because it's really good for business. I mean, people love it, and people love, and I get why you do what you do. I fucking get it. I mean, the episode with him going to DC, quite possibly one of the funniest things I've seen. But you had a great group of people who could rip him a new asshole, and it was deserved. And so I get that. What I feel for him, because I just think it's kind of sad. Honestly, I feel for the fact that he doesn't embrace the hate and, go the Star Wars way and just say, embrace the hate.
Well, dummy. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I'm just looking at your name tag there. So the reason why we've even started making fun of John regularly is because he didn't embrace the hate well the first time. We just did one episode on Centering John years ago. And what we do, like we did with Radio Gunk, we do one episode and we move on. There's been a couple guys who have stuck around, like Opie and, a few people that we've talked about from time to time. But John's reaction to our review was so over the top that I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy doesn't get it at all. And so we just started leaning into that. And John doesn't realize that he's creating all of these problems that he has for himself because he does not have a good sense of humor.
Well,
he takes himself way too seriously.
It's like when there's a child and I am diametrically opposed to children. I can't stand them, but they fucking love me, because I hate them so much. And so, sometimes you just kind of lean into it and say, okay, you love me because I hate you. And that's what the Dabblers kind of are, And they're a curious crew as well. A lot of them stem from my forum, and a lot of them are people that we've had around for forever. And, I adore them, and he hates that I adore them. Like, he hates that I like them.
Yeah, you're either with me or you're against me. It's kind of his attitude.
And I can't imagine that.
Right.
There's not another single person I have ever had on the show, ever, who has said, if you have this person on, then we can't be friends. And it's like, why is this all of a sudden about you? Like, why is this
for example, and not to bring him up early on in the show, but like I'm friends with Shuli, and obviously you and Shuli have your thing, and I didn't like ask his permission to come out and talk to you. I know that we'll still be friends after this. You know what I mean? It's not like it's going to be like, you're talking to Monique. Oh, okay. Well, then we're not blocked, But that's how John goes about his whole life.
Totally fine with you having that fucking hack on your show on a constant basis who's basically now going to rip you off behind a paywall. But okay, I digress. He hates me.
Can I ask you a question before we get into this any further? One of my favorite things that ever happened on John's show. You came on as a guest. Yeah. And he asked you on the show to be his co-host. Because I think like Royce or someone had just left. Or maybe it was Noel Kassler. Yeah. He's had a lot of co-hosts leave him. Yes. Noel Kassler had just left. And then you were on and he goes, do you want to be my co-host? And your reaction was like, well, John, I'm doing my own thing here. And I thought it was so funny because why wouldn't he like bring that up off air? Why did he set himself up for failure like that? What's wrong with him?
I don't even know that there was an expectation that I would say yes, because I would never do that. I love.
He thought that his platform was so amazing. He's just like, get off that Radio Gunk nonsense and come on with me, the Stuttering John podcast. You're like, no, would never do that. That's a waste of my time.
You know what I find, and I have to tell you, and I am going to swing around just to Shuli for a moment,
Sure.
because, we've done a couple of I Hate Shuli shows. And actually,
Yes.
Shuli can be proud of himself and know that he is part of the reason that my amazingly successful first Radio Gunk website and YouTube thing were taken down because of all the things that we had that said, I hate John Hine, Shuli, Gary, and Shuli hated that. He's like, well, why would I come on your show when you guys hate me so much? And by the way, he has a sock puppet account too. He rips me a new asshole on a constant basis. I'm positive it's him on Dabblers. So, they're all
I don't know if that's true. I mean, you say that. You can say that all you want, but what evidence do you have? What evidence do you have of that?
I mean, you wouldn't know, and why would he tell you? I just
No,
feel
but why
like,
do you know? What do you have evidence of? Just curious.
somebody told me.
Okay. Do you see how silly that sounds? You sound like Stuttering John. He's like, I got a private investigator who's looking at algorithms. I know who this person is. I know who they all are. It's like,
can you give me a little credit for when he tried to bring up this whole thing with your wife? And it's just like, okay, you know what? We're not really fucking going there. This is not like what this show is about. And he was trying really hard to kind of get that.
I wish you would have leaned into that, because that was funny. All of a sudden, John's like, that Karl's wife is cheating on him. And I'm like, wait, where did this come from? What the fuck? That was funny.
No, Ryan, no, that can't be true. Are you kidding? Shuli is also muttering Jay.
That's what John said. John was convinced that muttering Jay was Shuli. It's not true.
But
that's the thing, though, is like people can make these accusations and you're just like, oh, okay, sure, why not?
Okay. I mean, I get anonymous emails all the time with shit like this.
Yeah.
The other part of it is, though, that, the people that I am friendly with from the Stern Show will tell me shit constantly. And you know what? I keep their confidences. I'm sure you do, too. People tell you shit, and it's, of course, nothing that you're ever going to bring up on air. Yeah. And this is how you maintain friendships, is by keeping confidences. And so John at some point was like, oh, why would you do this to me? And it's like, John, if you don't trust me as a friend, then we can't be friends. Like, if you don't trust that I would hold your confidences, whatever the case may be, then we can't be friends. That's it.
I don't think John has real friends in the world, though. Because,
I'm not sure that he does. I mean,
yeah, you know what I mean? Because this is what I've observed. And by the way, I want to point this out because John just did shows. I was piecing through some of the stuff that I have to prepare for tomorrow's WATP.
Yeah.
And he's doing these shows where he's saying that I'm responsible for him losing gigs and it's fucking up his livelihood and it's for his kids, his money and stuff like that. I have always said our motto is observe and report. I don't want anyone calling comedy clubs. I play in a band. I don't want people like trying to get my band shows canceled and shit like that. Get it out of in real life stuff, guys. If you want to put a Photoshop on Reddit, we'll all have a chuckle. Like, that's awesome. I love that. Listen to podcasts, great. I've never once told anyone to mobilize against Stuttering John Melendez or harm him in any single way. In fact, I've actually made him a lot of money because a lot of the people who go on his show and super chat him are people who I can tell are trolling him just based on their screen name alone.
Of course they are. Yeah. And the other show that you had done with that fucking chunky guy who you then played his McDonald's.
Oh, Tony Michaels. Is that incredible? That guy's going hard in the paint on me about my band. And I'm like, dude, you're doing a vlog about drive-thrus. What are you doing? Fucking glass house motherfucker.
The funniest thing is when he turns to the camera like he's breaking the fourth wall or something with his fucking iPad or whatever the hell he's using, but he doesn't even show himself eating. He just shows how excited he is to eat.
Which is actually a good thing. But it's so funny because he'll go like this. He'll get up to the drive-thru window and they'll be like, "Are you ready to order?" And he'll go, "Yes, I am." And he'll turn to his camera and be like, "Hee." Neat. You're ready to order. Who cares?
Killed me.
How excited are you about calories?
Killed me. And so I appreciate what you guys do. I do. Yeah. I appreciate the being, and I got to be honest with you, when you first ripped us, I didn't listen to it because I was like, oh, fuck that. Why would I listen to this? I know that we suck. I know that our sound is horrible. I know that we do everything in real time, like while we're doing the show. You are completely more prepared than I will ever be in a show. But also, I don't do this for a living. Like, I don't do this.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I don't.
This isn't your main job?
I don't. I am blessed with the fact that I don't have to work. So I just do this for fun. This is just shits and giggles. I mean, and to call it anything more than that would be a joke. So we're in on the fucking joke. We get that it is what it is. And we'd love to say that every show is our first. Every show is our fucking first.
Well, let me say this, Monique,
Yeah.
because I think that after we put out our episode, I was actually surprised at your reaction, and I think you've changed. Obviously, your whole demeanor's changed on this. So we're friends, but when I first put out that episode, you had blocked me or something and sent me a note that said, "Well, enjoy the bump you're going to get of all of our fans listening to the show," but. It was this weird thing where I was like, we've already done Adam Carolla and Howard Stern and Alex Jones. It's I wasn't to do Radio Gunk for a bump. A lot of people suggested that we review your show. And I was a little surprised by that reaction. I was like, this is a woman who roasts people. I thought you'd be in on it and be like, hey, come roast me back. Because I've had people that I've made fun of who are now regular co-hosts on our show. Who were in on the joke and got it. And we're like, oh, that's awesome. You made fun of us. I want to come on and make fun of someone else.
Totally.
All right,
and I get it. It was during a period where, listen, I read all my YouTube views, and the comments and everything. And it just, at that moment, it was like, oh, another motherfucker I have to deal with who's going to, give me shit about the show and how we do it. And I just wasn't having it. I just wasn't.
That's fine.
Shit happens. So my question, though, with the chubby guy with the McDonald's is you invited him to come on your show. Has he agreed to do that? And how do you feel most people who you've kind of bashed or given some shit to, you tend to become friends with them a little bit later on? Like us, let's say that, we're going to be okay with each other and that's that. And I find you funny and, silly and ridiculously amusing and I'm cool with that. So,
well, I'll answer the second question first. Yeah. I've literally treated everything in my life like it's a roast. Even when I've been playing music all my life, we've always made fun of the venue, the other bands that we're playing with, the crowd, ourselves. Everything is a roast to me. I think that's a fun style of humor. And so I've never been one of the things that I want to point out, one of the things that we talked about with you guys, and when I was listening back, I was getting a little bit weird about some of the things that we said about Radio Gunk, because I'm like, oh, they're so obsessed with Howard Stern. I'm like, that's what people call me out about all the time, being obsessed with Opie or Senator Jen.
Of course.
And the thing that I try to keep it on is this surface level of I'm making fun of their show. I'm not making fun of their personal life, their family life, their kids. It's I don't go that deep into anything. And I think that's part of the charm of who are these podcasts and why we've had people like Doug from Who's Right and Dick Masterson from The Dick Show and all these guys, Kaya from The Official Podcast, all these guys who we made fun of come on and be part of the show and part of the roast. And after a roast, everyone's still friends. That's kind of the point of it. I'll take shots. That's fine.
And
we'll put it out there.
applaud that about you, that you don't take this shit too seriously.
You can't, or else you turn into Stuttering John. It's not good.
And he has texted me, and I just kind of found it weird that he blocked me because I started following that Muttering John guy, and I was like, well, you blocked me. He's like, well, because I just didn't want to see what that Muttering John guy was saying, so I blocked you because I didn't want to see, your replies to him and stuff like that. I'm like, well, that makes no sense because there's somebody else on Twitter basically calling me the C word and fuck that bitch and blah, 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 blah. And you reply to him like, I don't know why I should do this. So you make no sense to me whatsoever. You're very passive-aggressive in your friendship.
Let me read this to you because John was all upset that you were going to have me on his show, and he goes, I've never done anything bad to Monique. I've never said anything bad about her. Why she would do this to me.
Yeah.
So someone posted a Twitter DM. I know you saw this too. Yeah, from Ryan Sharman, who's been on my show, by the way. He used to be a mod.
Go ahead, post it.
John.
Share screen.
Well, no, I'll read it to you.
Okay, go ahead.
Unless you have it to post, which is fine. But he wrote, this is back on November 9th of 2019. I heard and I'm shocked. I've never said a bad word about her. I always at her show. It's sad. That was the most recent thing. And then this is the DM. He was writing to Ryan Sharman. Thanks, man, but Monique is a two-faced piece of shit. Ryan, do me a favor. Tweet a review of my show and tag Radio Gunk. Fuck that chick. He wrote, Monique blocked me. And he wrote back, she's a two-faced cunt. Jesus, dude. Relax. That was at 11:30 a.m. too. It's not even like he's been drinking all day.
So I got that. I got that from Ryan.
You see that, yeah.
And John called me before we were doing the show, as a matter of fact. And I said, so I see that you've been calling me a cunt. Is this true?
A couple times, by the way. I didn't even get to all the cuts of that.
Just
thread.
threw it out there, just because I just needed to get it out there. And he's like, what are you talking about? I would never do that. I'm like, John, I'm looking right at it. Like, I'm looking right at the actual text message, and you're calling me a cunt. Well, why would I do it? Why would I do that I'm like, John, I'm looking right at it. Like, what is wrong with you that you don't know that you did this to me? But you know what? I had already committed to doing the show with him, and I decided, fuck it. I wanted to ask questions that everybody wanted to know about, and I wanted to see how he would respond to them. And you know what he did, and you know how he went about it, and is deniability admission? I don't know. I don't know.
So by the way, again, I said it on my show. We did a review of your show
know.
with John, and I said you did a fantastic job. You were very much a neutral party in it, asking the questions people sent into you. You weren't for or against centering John in any way, and I thought you did a great job. He obviously didn't answer some of the questions, like, is he a substitute teacher? I think obviously that's true. There's photographic evidence of it. There's all these tweets out there. I mean, these aren't photoshopped. We know what's going on. And so I thought you did a great job. The thing that I was a little bit, I ragged on you a little bit near the end, was John started threatening me, and you didn't follow up with any questions. So John goes, if I was that Karl guy, I know guys in New York who aren't happy with him. I'd watch what I say. And I'm like,
because I just left that off. I just thought that was like...
No, that's a weird threat, isn't it? Like that's not a roast style joke right there. I know guys who aren't happy with him in New York, which is where I live.
And it's like, why wouldn't you be happy? Like, what is it to be unhappy with? Like, what is it that...
That's the follow-up question. Like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean they're unhappy with
well,
him?
you know
like,
what?
they
I think I was
unsubscribe
so
from his
shocked
podcast?
by
What do you mean?
I think I was so shocked by the bravado that took to say that.
It is shocking.
I wasn't even really sure what to say. And, I wanted to get out of there. I was like...
Yeah, okay, I understand. But that was, to me, because he's talking about me and threatening me, that was the most interesting part of the interview. And you were just like, okay, moving on. I'm like, no, ask him what he means by
Who are
that.
these people? What are you talking about?
What's going on here?
You know what? Why would you... You know what? I kind of feel like, why would you want to double down on somebody's threat by giving them more
I think
air?
make him look foolish by going, what do you mean by that?
Talk about it. Do you want them to name names? I mean, I'm not really sure how to have approached that. So getting into that whole thing, can you tell us about the takedown story and what's going on with that whole thing? Like what precipitated that and what's happening with that now?
All right. Yeah, thanks for asking. So, as you know, we pull clips of John's show, and some of the times we pull clips from Beer on the Balcony, which is, behind his paywall. And so John has this weird idea, and he talks to his attorney, Michael Popak. I don't know why Popak hasn't explained this to him. He's got this weird idea that if it's behind a paywall, we can't pull clips on it and make fun of it, even though that's definitely within fair use.
Yeah.
Very transformative content that we're creating. I don't play his entire show as he says that I do. We just pull clips and then we comment, just like you do with Howard Stern, obviously.
Yeah, I keep everything down to like 30 seconds now because of I've gotten so many, copyright infringement things from him.
But it's also from who? From John?
From Sirius.
Oh, from Sirius. Interesting. No shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm talking
I want to talk
20-second clips, but we'll swing around to that.
Yeah, I want to talk to you more about that because I'm planning on talking about Stern on my show tomorrow. So
okay.
I'm interested to hear what's going on.
Okay.
So John, for some reason, thinks that we can't pull clips and goof on him if it's on Beer on the Balcony. So we put a DMCA strike on YouTube, and thankfully YouTube was like, no, that's not what this is, and they just didn't do anything.
Right.
But they sent me the note, let me know that he did that. So then he went to Patreon, and he subscribed for my Patreon, which I got $10 out of him. So there's that. But he put in a DMCA strike against all the episodes that we did that were based on his audiobook and his Beer on the Balcony. And so based on the terms of Patreon, I took them all down. And they said, well, if you want to put in a counterclaim, you can. And I did. And I didn't do it right somehow, even though, whatever, that's a whole long story.
Yeah, right.
But, so I'm in with Patreon
because the
right now.
Haji YouTube that tells you how to do it wasn't exactly worded correctly.
Yeah, so I'm going back and forth right now with Patreon, trying to figure out, because basically what happens is I put in a counterclaim. He has 10 business days to then put in a federal lawsuit against me, at which point now I can't put the episodes back up. If he doesn't, I can. So that's what I'm waiting for now, is for whatever time period that has to go past so I can put all these episodes back up. Now, the other possibility is that he actually does go through with this and files a federal lawsuit against me, in which case that would be amazing. because
would be amazing.
discovery is how you start that. You have to open up your books. You have to understand income. You have to understand revenue. You have to understand, how many Patreon supporters do you have? How many people subscribe to your YouTube? How much money do you make off of Beer on the Balcony? How much money do you think I'm costing you, John? Because when you sue someone, like he sued Sirius, they didn't know what they were suing them for. They go, okay, well, what are the damages? They go, I don't know, you tell us. Like, no, that's not how this works. You can't ask the person you're suing how much they owe you. Zero.
I can't imagine that Michael Pluphack would do that. Like, I can't imagine he would be responsible for that.
He did. I saw the paperwork.
I'm shocked.
I saw the paperwork where they put in the suit, and then the counter from SiriusXM was like, what are you suing us for? What are the damages? What are you talking about? And the best part about that whole suit, if anyone hasn't followed it, John is suing, they're still in the process of suing SiriusXM because John can be heard on Howard 101 when they're playing the old episodes.
Right.
And so John was fine with it for 15 years. Howard 101 started back in 2005?
Yeah.
Before Howard even went over there, but whatever. They've been playing these tapes for at least 15 years. And John never had a problem with it when he was employed by the Tonight Show and had things going on in his life. And now that he has no income stream, he's like, oh, I'm suing them. It's like so transparent. It's so obvious what he's doing.
I have to tell you, there was a point where Brent had sent me a legal, stop showing my wife from her OnlyFans thing on your.
Yeah.
I was like,
cease and desist.
Number one, you're treading in, waters that you probably don't know too much about. And number two, there's 3 misspellings in your cease and desist thing that you're it's like, and also you really don't know who you're dealing with right now. So I would entertain your lawsuit if you wanted to do so, because it would just make great fodder for the show. I mean, you just don't get that. That's, and JD's wife one time, emailed me saying, I'll have to look into what my legal options are for you posting, thing. I was like, I encourage you to do so.
So you've dealt with all the same shit that I'm dealing with.
Of course, constantly.
Yeah,
constantly.
And what's funny about that is at least Brent understood that the first step is a cease and desist. John doesn't even get that.
Brent understands the assignment.
Yeah, you're right. John's been threatening to sue me for, I think we're going on 3.5 years now, where he's just been threatening to sue me. And just like how he was threatening to guys in New York, don't like what I'm up to, and who knows what's going to happen. Like, that's not how this works. When you're going to sue someone, you just serve them papers.
Period.
You don't threaten a lawsuit. You don't get them ready for it. You don't give them a chance. You don't threaten
prep.
a mob hit. You just do it. It's so stupid.
Just pull the fucking trigger. That's it. Just do it.
Right.
Just do it. Yeah, so I look forward to that. And, the funny thing is, and just like somebody's saying right now, Brenton's wife did step up and come on the show. And it was one of those things where at some point later on, I was like, I just have to thank you, because I appreciate the fact that you were able to look through. I mean, believe me, I've done 3 I Hate Brent shows. He was excoriated on my show. I mean, just brutal.
Mine too,
I mean, it's just because you can. I mean, it's like shooting fish in a fucking barrel, because they're just so brutal to work with. And I said, I really appreciate your ability to look past that and come on the show. And now, I'll text with him or just say hi and see how he's doing. I mean, I can't imagine that fucking lifestyle. I mean, I can't imagine that this is what he's doing for a living.
Like a porn
but okay,
now.
I mean.
But no, I have the exact same situation with Brent, where when he went over to Twitch, we did a whole episode based on his show, and we were much meaner to him than we were to you guys.
Because you can be.
Because he deserved it. And what he did was he reached out to me and said, Karl, I want to come on your show and, just kind of have a conversation. So I'd be like, yeah, of course, come on. And he literally just came on. He goes, you know what? You were right. I was doing a shit job. I didn't have a good show going on. And I was like, all right, we're good. You know what I mean? Like, that's how easy this is.
The hate.
Right.
I would, and it's the same thing, honestly, with like Shuli, if he wanted to come on the show. I'd be all over it. Like, it wouldn't even be an issue. But Shuli doesn't like me because I call him a hack all the time. And you know what? The funny thing to me is you would rip Shuli's show a new asshole, but yet you don't. Which
right,
I find
let's
funny.
talk about Shuli. Let's talk about Shuli. All right. So I've had Shuli on my show a number of times. He joined us in Nashville, and we did the live show.
Yeah.
And this is what I'll say about Shuli on my show specifically, is that Shuli's never going to walk. Okay, if you put him up to the plate, he's going to swing. Okay. He's going to swing at every ball that comes by, whether he's going to make contact or not, doesn't matter. He's swinging. Now, his on-base percentage is actually very high, and the people who hate Shuli will never see this. they'll never see the audience that was laughing at a bunch of the jokes that he had while we were playing Stuttering John clips and we were playing Tom Myers clips. Shuli has great, very quick one-liners and jokes. I always liked him on the Howard Stern show. But the people who hate him have this thing now where they can only see that they don't like him. And I think that it's unfair, in my opinion. I could be totally wrong about this. There are people that I don't like, but every now and again you have to be like, well, that was pretty funny. That was a good line. I've even said that about Stuttering John from time to time when he called Chrissy Mayer Krispy Kreme. I'm like, all right, well, that's good. That's not bad. You know, you have to give people their due.
Here's the thing about Shuli, and again, you know, the show that I watched with him, with you guys, with John in DC, Shuli, while I do not think is a great stand-up comedian, I think that he could be very good in a group-like setting where he can riff off of other people in
like the
order
Jay Thomas
to
show. He was good on
spur
Jay Thomas, right?
His fun. And that's what I think. Yeah. I think that's and I think one of the things that I dislike about Shuli, and pretty much everybody who has ever worked on the Stern Show, I mean, because, you know, I know a lot of them,
Sure.
and I would have to say Casey is probably the only person who is not like this.
I
And this
love
includes
Casey.
the Whack Pack. They
Yeah.
all have a sense of entitlement that demands that they be paid attention to. And yes, you are on a show with millions and millions of listeners. And that's why pretty much on every show I do at this point, because I know Shuli hates me, I will go because I have TubeBuddy, and I will go and look at Shuli's numbers for the week and see how many people have listened to his shows just to do a little analysis on where the hack is today. And I know he hates that. And I get that. But you know what? We love it. And so I think what happens is that I was really good friends with Nicole Bass for a long time, and
You describe really good friends. You guys go out to dinner together? And
no, I
clubbing
never.
And stuff?
No,
Okay.
I couldn't have her ever come to my home. I couldn't have her ever do anything. And as Gerla would tell me, don't ever let her know that you have anything, because then she will be all over you and asking you for money and asking you for things from her. But I would.
I could
actually
see her like creating doors that don't exist. She's like, I wanted a door there, and now there's a door. Like, okay, Nicole, whatever you say.
Well, she's the kind of person who literally at the end of her life was living in the back of a espresso joint in Queens. Like she was kicked out of her home, and she was living in the back of this
It's
room.
like how Eric Cartman lives in a hot dog now.
Yes,
It's so
that's
sad.
exactly
It's so sad.
Meanwhile, I did make a little visual display, which
Oh, great.
it's just a little silliness. Hold on, let me pull it up here while we're talking. I should have done this beforehand. Sorry, don't fucking kill me. But Jesus Christ. So
I didn't make you nervous enough that I was coming on that you would prep for the show.
I had no nerves. I was not nervous about you
Perfect.
coming on
Good.
my
I'm
show.
glad to
What's
hear
wrong
that.
with you? What the fuck is wrong with you?
I know. It was
Why
a
would I
joke.
be nervous? You
was a
know,
joke.
I'm a
We're
total
all
New York
friends here.
girl. Been there, done that. So I'm not even going to put the sound on this, but this is how I feel Shuli and John are. Okay, let me get this together. So it's the cripple fight, basically. So, so basically, what goes on with, and I know you like a good South Park analogy, and I do too.
Of course.
So in this scenario, let us say that that's Shuli,
Okay.
and let us say, for argument's sake, that the other one would happen to be Stuttering John.
Yeah, he's not far
And
from there.
let's say that, you know, the two of them, they are equal in my book in terms of their ability to draw crowds and to make people laugh. And you know what, maybe Shuli a little bit more in the, you know, very quick-witted kind of jumping on things and
Maybe.
stuff like that.
Maybe Shuli's more quick-witted than Stuttering John. John hasn't even attempted a joke in 23 years.
So
Maybe.
here's the dabblers. He's
Still talking about Gary's teeth. That's where John's at. The house and tooth build is still the funniest thing he says on his show. Fucking idiot.
So yeah, so the cripple
these are the
fight is
dabblers. I like this. I like this
so
analogy.
This is the analogy that I have to make. So cripple fight outside, everybody
Yeah.
needs to know that these are the two. So so then I was told to ask you about, and I know we're going all over the place, but I don't know how much time you have with me.
Well, can I say one thing before and keep
Yeah.
that question ready to go? But I will say this, and this isn't just about Shuli. It's about all the comedians who host podcasts. They're overexposed. And I truly think that there is a problem right now when guys like Bill Burr are unlistenable. You're like, oh, well, comedians are overexposed. Like Bert Kreischer's on 13 shows right now. And like these guys who can put together a 60-minute, 70-minute long act that's really funny and compelling, then think that they have to do podcasts every week or 3 times a week, and they're not that interesting.
Well, they also think that they're really, really amusing, and they think that everything they say is kind of like comedy gold, and it's not.
It's
and
sad because there's a
like
reason why
circle
there's
jerk.
hosts. There's a reason why there's hosts. Like Artie Lang should not be doing his own podcast. We can
Absolutely
both
not.
agree on that. But Artie Lang on the Howard Stern show is gold. I miss those days. We all do, obviously. So it's like what happened with this whole podcasting thing is you had all these guys who were great sidekicks or were good bit characters who are now the hosts of a show, and it's not good.
And
right?
it's
We
like
can
a
agree.
circle jerk, though. They all do each other's shows all the time. And, you know, I could only relate it back to Shuli because that fucking Miserable Men is horrible. I mean, have you reviewed Miserable Men?
I have not.
Oh,
no.
see, what is wrong with you? You see,
We have a lot of things on our list.
so Miserable Men, quite possibly one of the worst shows I've ever heard in my life. And you have the dual threat of Brent and Shuli, along with Bob Levy and some other fucking guy I've never even heard of. But it's that same thing. It's that circle jerk of guys who were funny. Half of them are in AA or in DA. They don't drink anymore. They don't do drugs. They were so much funnier when they were fucking alcoholics and could really turn a fucking joke and drink excessively. And now
they also need someone to steer the conversation because a lot of times what happens is they're all trying to like make jokes and one up each other and talk over each other. I'm not talking about just Miserable Men, but all these types of show formats where there's 4 or 5 guys who all think they're the funny guy in the room. You need one person who doesn't think they're the funny guy who's willing to like move the conversation ahead and keep things moving. And
to
I
kind
don't
of
see
steer the ship.
Yeah.
And see, I think I blame a lot of this on COVID too, because now there's more podcasts than ever because people are sitting at home, basically not knowing what to do with themselves. And it's like, oh, okay, let me do a podcast. So you have like actors and actresses and all these people that really have nothing to fucking say. If they would talk about their life experiences, if they would talk about the fact that this fucking director tried to touch my titty or put his hand down my pants, then it would be interesting.
Yeah,
But
it's
instead,
so superficial. I've always said anyone who has a whole, like a publicist and a whole PR team will never be interesting on a show. They're being
Never be
coached.
interesting.
So
Never
that
be
they're going to
interesting.
say what they're going to say, which is part of the problem with the Howard Stern show now.
Absolutely.
The celebrity interviews are atrocious. It's like
Unlistenable.
unlistenable. It's a waste of everybody's fucking time.
Absolutely.
To even have these conversations with people because obviously these questions have all been looked through and approved and okay, yep, I know what to say to this, I know what to say to that. So yeah, I totally agree with you. It's been one of the best things for WATP is that every celebrity is now starting a podcast. I go on the show, the Drew and Mike show out of Detroit every other week, and they love when we review celebrity podcasts. I'm always scouring for new celebrities. We just did like Paris Hilton and
Which is your favorite one that you have done? Like, what is your singularly your favorite show that you have like ripped into?
Stuttering John. Stuttering John's just endless. It has to be.
It's a gift that keeps giving. I know
Yeah, you
that.
have to ask me like what after Stuttering John would have to be the question because John's just so funny. And that's the thing that John doesn't understand either is that John will say, "Oh, Karl's obsessed with me." I actually, from time to time, I'm like, "Oh, fuck, I gotta go listen to Stuttering John now because it's part of my job, unfortunately." But I do find his show entertaining, and not in the way he hopes it would be entertaining, but in the
course.
fact that he can't broadcast. The guy can't string together 2 sentences without sounding like a moron.
He can't
So when you
help
compare him to
himself.
Shuli,
He
I
really
take offense to
can't
that.
help himself. Okay, so Shuli, I can't give credit to Shuli. I'm sorry, I just can't. There's nothing you can say.
You have a brand, I get it. That's fine.
But it's
say on
just
brand.
okay. Here, perfect example. Opie, fucking Opie.
Yep.
Okay, so he has this stupid show, and John, who works with me on Radio Gunk, will always call in as Radio Gunk, and he'll be in the chat, and he'll ask some sort of inane question about Howard Stern or whatever. And Opie will answer it. And then John will say, how come you haven't been on the show yet? And he's like, yeah, I got to get around to doing that. I got to do something with them. And fucking Opie, okay? So back when, who died? Who the fuck died? I can't even remember who it was. And he had been texting with me. He's like, hey, what do you think about blah, blah, blah? And I was like, well, I think it's really a shame because of blah, 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 blah. So the next day, I see somebody interviewed Opie, and he literally stole my text. He, stole what I wrote. To him,
What an asshole.
to put onto whoever it was that was in. I was like, you motherfucker! I cannot believe you did that.
Wow.
And so
That just shows that Opie doesn't have a thought in his head.
not a single
Wow.
thought. You
Just
can
a
see the
void.
words coming out the other side of his fucking head when he's talking. I'm not even joking. And so, yeah, so he was on with like, again, it's like you have like Jackie the Joke Man is on all these shows. It's like he does all these one-liners. He has nothing else going on. And he just talks about things that happened in the past. The Beatles, we were the Beatles. And it's like, okay, just own up to the fact that you completely fucked up. You fucked up by not taking that money and running all the way to the goddamn bank and never looking back. Never. So he's like, yeah, I'd love to have a show with, what was her name? Michelle, Maureen, whatever. Yeah, we should do something. You should go out. You guys should come out to, his campus out there and we'll do a show. And so I text Opie. I'm like, Opie, let's do this.
Yeah.
Crickets. And it's like, what is wrong with you? Like, seriously, what is so important in your life that you can't,
Wow.
come on the show for an hour?
You know who has the best theory about this
Tell me.
is Anthony Cumia, because I've talked to him about Opie on numerous occasions now. And Opie's thing is that he doesn't want to be viewed as another podcaster because then they could compare him. Like, he likes to talk about how he could overtake Joe Rogan, but he will never go back to being in a studio, having guests on, doing a regular show format, because then it exposes what a hack he is. So instead, he broadcasts from his car and he talks to people on the street.
Right.
And he's up in his apartment overlooking traffic and talking about how much traffic there is. Like, he's like the anti-podcaster. Just in case someone's just like, oh my gosh, Opie, you suck at podcasting. I'm not even podcasting. This isn't even, I'm just streaming. I get on here because I'm bored. You're like, okay, well then we can't goof on you. You win. All right.
Thank you, David. You're right. It was when Karl died. It was when Karl died.
Carl Ruiz, yeah.
Yeah.
was
And
a
I
big
had said
blow.
something like really sweet about him, and then he repeated it.
Wait, he didn't know anything about his own best friend, Carl Ruiz. He had to repeat your thing?
You know what? Because what I wrote
Oh,
was
no.
actually correct and properly spelled, and
Yep.
actually made sense. And he just snagged it from me. So he is colossally fucked up, and I don't even understand people like him. So fuck him. I want to talk to you about Cumia too.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on him with the dating the younger girls thing? Like you.
Well, I know his girlfriend pretty well, Missy. She's in her 30s.
Oh, so that's not the one he took to her prom.
No, that's going back a little ways. Yeah.
Still a little bit on the weird, creepy side. Has he
Yeah.
ever asked you to be a part of Compound Media?
No.
Really? And would
No,
you
we've
do
been-
it if he did?
Probably not. I think he kind of knows I have my own thing going.
Yeah.
So we've never had that conversation, no.
I just wondered, did you ever talk to him about the ridiculous amount of money he poured into having Artie become his co-host, even putting up that gigantic billboard right outside of the Lincoln Tunnel?
Yeah, so the billboard was actually the guy who was running the network at the time, Keith the Cop.
Yeah.
And Anthony has come out and said what a stupid decision that was. He's talked about a lot of the things that Keith did when he was running that network that he wasn't all that thrilled about. Because listen, Keith the Cop's a great guy. I know they're good buddies. They still are. But he maybe was over his skis trying to run an entire video network.
Little bit. I just
So
wondered.
they paid Artie what, $900,000?
Yes, I mean it was ridiculous. It was just ridiculous amount of
But
money.
I will
And
say
get it.
this. I will
Yeah.
say this, Monique. So as soon as he got fired from Sirius, Anthony did,
Mm-hmm.
I canceled my subscription to Sirius and I subscribed to Compound Media.
Okay.
And I was Team Anthony. And I was Team Anthony, and then I just kind of like bailed out a little bit. When he got Artie on the show, that's when I got back in. I've been back in ever since. So I'm sure he got a lot of subscribers who are interested to hear Anthony and Artie, although it wasn't the version of Artie that I was hoping for.
I agree, and I will also contend that when Howard had Artie on, many of us went over because we love to hear an unedited Artie.
Yeah.
We love to hear the repartee that would actually include being able to say the F word and shit like that. I mean, I think that dynamic was something that we all looked forward to hearing uncensored.
Still
And
one of
then
the greatest episodes ever, and I reviewed
Right.
this with my buddy Vinny, was the Artie and Anthony show when they had Stuttering John on. And Stuttering John came in defensive from the get-go.
Yes, of
And
course.
it was so funny. He was there for about an hour, got shithoused, and then goes, I gotta go watch the Monday Night Football game. Meanwhile, their show is from 4 to 6. Football starts at 8:30, so I don't know why he was in a hurry to get out of there, but he had an excuse, and that was a fun one.
I will never understand. I will never, ever, ever understand this. And when I said to him to embrace the dabblers, and you should do a tour that's called like the Dabbler Tour, I think it would be fucking hysterical. He would never think of doing that. If he did a Dabbler T-shirt, it would sell. If he, everybody keeps telling me to put on my hat, and I don't know where it is. I'm sorry, guys.
Your dad
So
was
funny.
out of his hat.
That was That was the most classic thing in the whole wide world. So that day when I did the interview with him, I was wearing a Depeche Mode hat. It said DM on it.
Oh, I remember.
And he calls me 2 minutes after the show was over. He's like, "What hat were you wearing?" And I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Just tell me, what hat were you wearing?" I said, "Depeche Mode." He said, "What does it say in the front?" I was like, "DM, Depeche Mode." He's like, "Oh, I was told that it was a Dabbler Melendez hat." I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I would ever spend the time?"
By the way, that was one of the most amazing parts of your most recent episode with Stuttering John that I pulled out on our review of that, was this idea that John likes to say he doesn't listen to the trolls, they don't bother him, he's above that. He even told you, he's like, "Oh, I don't care anymore." And then he immediately says, "Yeah, but those guys told me that you were goofing on me. That's why I texted you." It's like, well, then you do care, John. You see that, right?
This is what happens. And I
You're
don't
not fooling anyone.
I don't really have the thought or time for that. Like, I don't care enough about, feeling. I would never tell another single human being who to have or not have on their show. Like, I would never stop somebody, stifle them. Who gives a shit? It's your show. And
Who gives a shit? Who gives a fuck?
Exactly. So tell me what you're talking about with Howard tomorrow. I'm curious.
Oh, I have Alex Stein coming on the show tomorrow.
Ooh.
Are you familiar with Alex Stein? Oh, okay. Well, he's really interesting. He's a fun guy, and he's a huge Howard Stern super fan.
Okay.
So it's one of the segments we're going to do tomorrow. I'm actually, the main segment we're doing is a show called Podcast About List. And I was not familiar with this. It was a suggestion that came in. List. Sorry if I slurred on that. Podcast About List. And
lists?
List. Singular. And so these guys, the person who suggested it said they're kind of like Cumtown. I'm like, okay. And then I went and looked up their Patreon. They make like $28,000 a month. So, okay. Well, these guys are huge.
Wow.
I know. It's amazing how many of these shows you're like, I've never heard of them. Like, oh, they have a huge fan base. All right, cool. Let's check it out.
Listen, it's like asking me how I know that Caitlin's making, more than several $1,000s a month on OnlyFans. And I just don't understand, since porn is free, why anybody would pay to see a large woman. And you know what happened. They actually got a letter from the landlord saying they're no longer allowed to film in their apartment.
No shit.
Because apparently there were always like several black men waiting downstairs in the hallway to come up and do their scenes with her. And then she was also having sex in the pool and having sex around the place and making a lot of noise. And so they told them, you need to stop that or else we're going to have to kick you out of the building.
Yeah, you might want to get a studio for that.
Might want to get a little hotel room. Might want to get a little, might want to get a little something. Oh my God. So yeah, so everybody's going to defend or hate. Okay, Monique, maybe if you told Stuttering John what text you were referring to, he would have remembered. So you're mad at Stuttering John for a private DM he sent to this idiot years ago. Ryan said it was because you trashed him. So it was 2 years ago. So it wasn't like years ago. It was just 2 years ago.
Listen, none of it would matter if John didn't say, I've never said a bad thing about her. And then you immediately go, well, here's a DM where you called her a cunt twice. Oh,
yeah.
That's the problem, Dan. It's not about like calling someone a cunt on a DM or a text message. It's this idea that you're like, I'm perfect in every way and she's just being an asshole. Like, no, you are also an asshole. You know that, right? How do you not know that?
So I would be remiss to not mention this because I just thought it was a really funny tweet from today, where I had advised John to lean into the trolls and embrace it and whatever, thus negating the hate. So that Muttering John called it the Melendez paradox, which I thought was so
saw that
fucking
too.
funny.
He wanted us to talk about those.
I know he did, and then I figured I would just mention it. Okay, so tell me about this guy who's coming in tomorrow. So I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Let's talk
I
about
totally
the,
have ADD. I will digress.
No, let's
like
talk
5,000
about
times.
the stuttering John paradox, because what muttering Jay was saying was, okay, you're telling
Who
him to
is
lean
Muttering
in.
Jay? Who do you think Muttering Jay is?
You know what? I don't know, but he did say that he has some type of connection, like he's a behind the scenes guy or something. I don't know.
Okay, they all say that, but okay.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, he actually writes fairly intelligently, so I'm going to give him like a pass on being just your basic incel idiot living in his basement. But, you know, I appreciate the syntax of his tweets. So
He does very good work, very good research. What he's doing,
and
things.
whoever's doing those videos.
Oh my gosh, there's a couple of people who are making
I'm almost jealous.
phenomenal
I'm
videos.
almost
Yeah.
jealous. There was like a claymation one the other day that just fucking
I'm gonna
killed
play
me.
that. I'm gonna play that tomorrow on WATP.
You absolutely have to. That is
Yeah.
just the funniest thing
It's
I've ever
30
seen.
seconds, and it's all the offshoots that John's gonna come up with for his show.
So yeah, so let's discuss the paradox.
So
Or the MP,
what
as
what
it's
they were
called.
saying was, okay, let's say that John now leans into this. Wouldn't that make it so that the dabblers and this community are no longer enjoying him? And so him leaning into it means that he'll actually lose that community. So it's like, well, okay, I have all these people who are paying attention to me because they think I'm an idiot. So if I lean into that, then they'll stop paying attention to me, and I won't
And
be
then
able
if
to
they
make money
stop
off
paying
it.
attention to me, then I won't get all these like delicious super chat trolls.
Correct. Now, I have two comments on this.
Interesting.
The first one is that John can't play a character for long enough to make this work. John always falls back on his true personality, because every now and again he'll be like, yeah, I don't care, it's not a big deal, and then he gets drunk and he's just like, it's fucking sycophant, but he just starts freaking out at people. So he wouldn't last long enough to be able to do it. But I will say this. This is the big thing about this paradox, is that he should have done this years ago. He didn't.
Yes.
I think that even when you fuck up in life, you should still learn from that and do better and try harder. If John were to, let's say he does something where he's like, leans into it, there's no longer a reason to goof on him. So then the dabblers goes away. And he can go
Yes.
back to being this ultimate famous stuttering John Melendez from the Howard Stern show. And wouldn't that be better for him? Because it's causing him a lot of grief to
But
have all these
nay,
haters.
I say no. I say you're right. This is this is good. This is good. So let's think this through a second. So when J.D. Harmeyer's wife emailed me and said, could you please take down any of these Instagram photos of my friends, because people are starting to call them and people are starting to fuck with them. And I'm like, you know what? Yes, I will. I will do that for you, because I understand that this, nobody ever wants somebody calling them and fucking with them. I mean, it's just as simple as that. I can embrace it all I want and say fuck the trolls and whatever, but nobody wants people calling them and fucking with them.
Right.
So I took it down, and then she just decided to go radio silent on her Instagram and everything. And it sucked the lifeblood, it sucked the oxygen out of the fun we had with it. And so
Exactly.
now it's like, okay, so
Moving
there's
on.
no more of that. So we move on, and we'll go back to Beth, or we'll do somebody else, or we do Caitlin, or whatever it is. But it negates that. But by doing so, the Melendez paradox, by doing so, she now loses out on having like an Instagram thing where we would follow her and we would post about her, thereby giving her more popularity than she had. So it's a curious, yes, I see it. Brilliant. So this one's saying Muttering John is female, which I find very interesting.
Who
That's
knows?
what do we think? I don't. I do not know if JD is still married to her, but I don't care either, because fuck him.
Is
he's an
JD
idiot.
still on the show? I don't listen to Stern anymore. Is
Yeah,
he still part of
there's
that?
nothing to listen to. I have to
know.
tell you, the reason that we still do the Stern thing, and a lot of people will give us shit about, just jumping on this, and then we do the Stern thing. Okay, so I think it started out as something really fun and just kind of picking on the show and remembering like how we used to love the show and that we don't any longer. Now, though, it's become almost like a audio and visual testament to how he is absolutely a colossal, horrible interviewer, and the show just sucks, and you have 70 people that are giving this like shit
Yeah,
content
the size
to
of
you.
that staff is insane for what they're putting
70.
out.
70 people. I kind of
insane.
feel like it's like the government, when people spend money at the fucking Pentagon for like $2,000 toilets, and if you don't spend that money on the toilets, then you lose it. I feel like if he doesn't spend it, he will lose it, and he's not going to lose it. He's just not going to. So here's 70 people looking at this show, and he's just so horrible to his parents now, and the shit that he says about them, and he talks about his mother's like titties and, just all sorts of really, really horrific
Is he
stuff.
broadcasting out of Florida still? Is he in his
So
Florida
he
home?
left Florida. So
He
we
did.
were able to determine when he's in Florida and when he's in New York
How do
based
you
on
do
the
that?
tile on the floor. So
Guys are detectives.
I mean, he's such an idiot. Put a fucking rug down. We'll never know the difference. And so he's back in New York now, but I think he's going for a homestead a tax abatement now. So he's trying to spend 6 months there and 6 months in the Hamptons, maybe sell New York, who knows. But I don't see him ever coming back into
I was going to say, will he ever be back in
No.
the studio?
I don't think so. I think he might be forced in. I think
they would
that
have to.
Sirius will never fire him because then they'll have to pay him, and so I think that at some point he'll have to go in there. Either that, or it's just a fucking Zoom call. He's interviewing people that are actually in his office, and he's Zoom calling with them.
I
And
had a
think it's
conversation
horrible.
with a person who has been on the Stern Show a few times, a super fan for many, many years. And even he was like, I can't listen to this anymore. It sounds like a conversation between two 70-year-old people, between him and Robin, just complaining about everything in the world.
Everything.
Just
And they're so
it's
not
just
hip.
two people going, can you believe that Sally, she's leaving the house at 10 a.m.? Like, whatever. Who cares? What are you talking about?
Nothing is worth listening to, seriously. And I struggle. There's a lot of times where I struggle with even clipping maybe 6, 7, 8 minutes worth of show for the entire day.
All right. Yeah, let's talk about that. So you got a cease and desist from Sirius? What'd you got?
So on my first channel, right, where I had like, I think I was at just around 11,500 subs.
Okay.
And, we were just doing really, really well. Everything was getting approved and blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, we one time exposed that Howard Stern is now a grandfather because somebody got a hold of his daughter's Instagram and posted it on my website.
Yeah.
So I was like, I have to, this is breaking news. We have to let people know that Howard Stern's a grandfather now. And he would never admit that because he thinks he's too cool for fucking school. He still thinks he's like, 19. And
Is that why? I don't know about that.
he doesn't want anybody know. I don't think he can actually handle being a grandfather. Like, I don't
think his daughters can handle being.
him being their
Yeah,
father.
I think that's what it is, right? I think the daughters are like, leave us out of this.
Well, you know what? And I know that Shirley mentioned that about, how we go after his kids. And we don't go after his kids. You have a fucking daughter who is literally a rabbi, and she sings the most insipidly horrible music on this guitar. She only knows like 4 fucking chords. You really have to listen to it to appreciate it. She just strums dun, 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 and then just does another like Shabbat song or something around Hanukkah.
Where are you
and
finding this, though? Is she putting it out on the internet? Is she trying to get
puts them on
famous from
YouTube.
it?
She puts them on YouTube
Does
with
she?
the
Okay.
words. Like somebody's going to sing along. There's like
right.
47 views. They're all from our people.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
and she expects people to sing along with this. And so
This is
she
where you
puts-
go a little deeper than I do. It's funny because do you know who the ROTC guys are? Revenge of
Yes.
the Sis.
Yes.
I had those guys on my show, and we were reviewing Brendan Schaub, Fighter and
Yeah,
the Kid.
okay.
And I'm like, I listened to the show, and I'm like, dude, this show sucks. Brendan Schaub's not funny. And they're like, yeah, and you know what? He cheated on his first wife, and they're like getting it all this shit. I'm like, whoa, I'm just listening to the show. Like, I don't go that deep on people's personal lives and
Absolutely.
stuff.
And you know what? Anything that's behind the scenes, I don't really care about. I mean, we know
Yeah.
more stuff about Emily than I really care to know about her.
Okay.
People
Is that
send
the
me her.
oldest daughter, or is
People
that
send
the
me her
youngest?
addresses. They send me like all of her shit. We would never, ever, ever do that because you
Yeah.
know what? They're not in the public eye, and I don't really give a shit about it. But when you
They've
put
suffered
yourself out
enough.
there,
They had to
they've
grow up
suffered
with Howard
enough.
Stern
When
as
you
their
put yourself
father.
out there, like Deborah, his daughter who had the kid, who would have known unless somebody was following her? Like, we don't follow her. Her
Okay.
account is private, and so that day, that very day, all of a sudden I just got slammed, like just boom, 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 strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, just came after me. And exactly, and at the same time, somebody tried to did a attack on my website. So they did a DOS attack.
DDoS
of some
attack, yeah.
sort. Yeah. And shut me down. They just shut me the fuck down. And so that was all she wrote. And not only did it suck, but, so many of the live shows, was at a point where, sometimes I would download them, sometimes I didn't. Who gives a shit? We're just having a great time, blah, 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 blah. And I lost at least 100 shows that will never come back. And so it kind of sucked. And now what I see happening is when they don't like something that we say. For example, a couple of weeks ago, he was talking about his father being on some sort of like antipsychotic drug, and he mentioned it by name.
Okay.
And one of the guys on my show, Xavier, says, I'm not really sure that HIPAA law says that you are allowed to tell people what somebody else is on in terms of like their medication. And I guess someone at Sirius said, yeah, you're right. Fuck you. Click. And I'm like, motherfucker. So a lot of the stuff that they've been coming after me for, and it won't be strikes, it'll be copyright infringements and stuff like that. And, you're not allowed to play this anymore. And then
Is it like a DMCA strike that they...
They used to be, not anymore.
Okay.
Now they just are like,
it's just
you know what?
copyright infringement.
Just a copyright infringement. And so I'll just take it out.
Doesn't fair use give you, you're transformative, obviously. You're not just playing a show.
One would think.
I would
And
think.
I've gone through this so many times that my wording is fucking perfection on my
Yeah.
site. I actually even added in a little bit more wording, which says, the views of other members or other guests on the show are not necessarily reflective of the person. I highly recommend you add that, because it's one of those things where people are starting to kind of come after you just because you say you don't like them. And it's a big thing. I'll send you the wording.
Okay,
It's
please
just, it's
do.
just one of those things.
Please do, because I have to get back to Patreon right now. I got it a draft in my outbox that I'm waiting to send. It's fucking assholes.
I got all the legalese down to science. So what do you think?
So this is what I've written. This is what I've written so far.
Yeah,
Fuck you!
that's
What do you
exactly
think?
right.
All right,
That's
good.
all-
All right, so I got it down.
It's all makeup and grunting. Okay, so tell me what shows you have coming up. So you have this guy coming on tomorrow who's a super fan, and
Yeah, so
what
Who
else?
Are These Podcasts is my podcast that we put out, and we're now twice a week. We do a show it comes out every Sunday and Thursday, and you can find that wherever you get podcasts. Who Are These Podcasts? Also, whoarethese.com. All of our episodes are up there. Also, I've been building up the YouTube channel quite a bit, so if you find us on YouTube and subscribe, we appreciate that. You can also find all of our videos on our new website, whoarethese.com. So I've been incorporating a video element into things, something I thought I'd never do.
Well,
I'm a
what
big
do you
radio
think about
fan.
doing that? Because I've just started showing myself like last year, and
Yeah.
I used to be just so, I didn't want to be party to what other people do to people on my site with like their faces and photoshops
Sure.
and shit like that. But now I don't even care. It's just, you just got to embrace it. There's plenty of people out there that say Mo and Kevin BFFs.
That's right.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna come visit him up in that, place that's cold or almost cold. There's no fucking summer up there. Yeah, like that.
Talking about where I live?
Yeah. It's
beautiful
like,
out
winter and
today.
almost winter. That's all you have up there.
Where are you from? I thought you were from.
I'm a New Yorker, born and
Yeah,
raised.
okay, that's what I thought. Where are you now?
I divide my time between Florida and Pennsylvania.
Okay. I'm looking at a place in
So
Florida myself, so I'm with
You
you
what?
on that. I'm looking for a place in Florida myself. So I'm with
Yeah,
you
let's
on
talk
that.
about that off air. Which coast? Which coast?
West Coast, Gulf Coast.
Of course, the Gulf Coast. That's
Yeah.
the only place. That's
Yeah,
the only
okay.
coast.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about it off air for sure.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wanna
yeah,
get your
yeah.
take on that.
Yeah, I'll tell you something funny about
So
that
as
too.
far as video goes, like I never thought we would do a video show, but now everyone does a video show,
Yeah.
especially the shows that we're making fun of. So bringing in a video element definitely adds another layer of comedy to the show, and I've actually been enjoying it quite a bit, especially with Stuttering John, because this guy should not be standing in front of a camera at any point in his life. So it's so funny to actually do the reviews where we're watching the video and reacting to that. It's been a lot of fun.
Believe me, if I could do more things with a video, like if I could play Howard's Channel 9 show without getting a strike, I would do it. But I just can't.
You can though. It's
they come
legal for you to play clips.
They come after me
back. Fight
constantly.
back.
Yeah, I know. I should fight back. I know. I always think to myself, it's kind of like when they want to assess your house for more taxes, and then you fucking fight back, and then they come to your house and see that you built a whole new fucking deck, and so they charge you even more money.
I see what you're saying.
Like,
Yeah, you don't want to draw any more attention to yourself.
because I'm
Yeah.
solely focused on him, so it makes it harder. If I digressed, if I went out and started, bullshitting about other shows, which is your thing, so I'm not doing that, but I'm just saying it would be a different story because I would be, getting out there a little bit more and seeing some sunshine as opposed to fucking doing this whole Howard Stern thing. But we don't, so they are always focused on us.
I got
and,
you. I understand.
Can't help it.
So I will say this because I am a radio nerd and I grew up listening to talk radio and I love all the different formats, comedy, politics, sports, entertainment, whatever. And so I appreciate podcasts because I like to do other things while I'm listening to it.
Me too.
I want to put the earbuds in and do my thing and listen to shows. So I'm trying to keep my show focused on audio first. So if you ever listen to Who Are These Podcasts, my goal is to make it an audio show. And also my other goal is you can come in and listen to an episode at any time from any time of our show and get what we're doing. I don't like these shows where you have to know so much lore. You have to know all of these inside jokes and shit in order to get into it.
See, that's us. I mean, that's where we are now because we've been doing the show for like 5.5, 6
It's
years.
hard not to do that because you've all been part of this and your listeners are part of it. So I always try to, if I'm talking about something that people might not know about, I say, the reason why we're talking about this because blah, blah, blah. I always try to set these things up so that anyone can just listen to any episode, get what
and
we're
just
doing.
jump in.
And,
Like a
and
soap
be a
opera.
part of it.
You just jump right in. And so,
the opposite of soap opera. I want everything to be like a one-off episode.
but
is my
meaning
goal.
that you can just jump in and catch
Yeah.
exactly what's going on without any issue. So
Right.
people wanted me to ask you about the clubfoot, and I don't know why. And
Okay.
is this like
I
a
was
thing?
born. Yeah, I was born club-footed, which what that means is people talk about my deformed feet. It's actually an ankle thing more than anything. It's just called clubfoot. So my when I was born, my ankles were bent in, and my feet were like the bottoms of my feet were facing each other,
Like
and so
this way,
like towards each other.
this way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. So if these were the bottom of my feet, it'd be like this. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So as a baby, I had many operations, and I can walk. I used to skateboard and all that kind of stuff. So my buddy Vinny from the Creep Off, he's actually going to be on WATP tomorrow with me, with Alex as well. Likes to goof on me quite a bit and pretend that I'm not mobile and things like that, but I am actually upright and mobile. So. Oh, and Vinny just texted me, plug the Creep Off. I just plugged the Creep Off, you asshole, all right? Jesus Christ.
Wait, and I have one more thing I have to ask you about
Yeah, go
because
ahead.
I would like to know: do you enjoy doing the music more than the podcast, or are they kind of equal in your brain, or what do you enjoy more?
So they were both hobbies, and one of the hobbies turned into my profession. So because that I actually make an income and a living from podcasting, I think
Yeah,
I might.
that's a beautiful thing. I got to be honest with you.
I
You
put
know,
more effort into that than the music.
And
at this
I
point.
get that because I've been I'm really good friends with Tim Sabian. He has told me on countless occasions, if you would only put just a little bit more effort into
Hold
your
on.
show, I can put
Hold
you
that
on.
thought. Tim
Yeah.
Sabian. Have you ever asked him why he hired Opie to be on Westwood One? I'd love to know the answer to that.
You know what?
What was he
because,
thinking?
Yeah, well, because at the time,
Yeah.
suffice it to say, he also asked me to be on Westwood One, so it
Oh,
wasn't
no
really just an
shit.
Opie thing. Yeah.
Oh, so he was hiring anyone. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. But you know what the problem was? A, I wasn't on, visually, and B, I didn't have a regularly scheduled show. He's like, you got to get your shit together. You have to put together something where you're on at least 3-4 times a week. You have to have a visual element to it, and you have to make it a little bit more fucking real, or else there's nothing I can do for you. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. I can't commit to doing this. And so, he had been reaching out. There was like that other guy who does like a barbecue show, who's kind of like a chunky guy too. And then there's, he just kind of reached out to his friends, to his people. And
Yeah.
so, Opie was going to make like a good, strong percentage based on advertising revenue kind of thing. I have the contract somewhere in my
Really? So do you
archive
know
of
how
stuff.
that ended?
I don't know why that ended. I know I think Tim had left Westwood One before Opie did, and I think that Opie followed soon thereafter because even though he was making numbers, and this is just me talking, so even though he was making numbers, I don't think that he felt like he was getting a fair share of the profits. So that's why that happened. But they were they were, to use fabulous Jewish nomenclature. They were ganefs. You know, it was one of those things where, okay, we're going to promote you, we're going to put you on, we're going to do this and that for you, but we take like 60% or something like that. I mean, it was something like ridiculous.
It's
And so
interesting
everybody else-
because when I was following that, obviously that whole thing when Opie
Yeah.
went on there, it's actually the reason why WATP took off is because we goofed on Opie. That was episode 107 of our show or something. So I was 2 years in and
Yeah.
ready to quit, and then finally that hit and that caught on.
How many
So I
shows
was
have you done?
So now we're on 316. I just put out.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry. Continue.
So so I was following the Westwood One thing, and I was looking at their roster, and it's all celebrities like Jericho and all these like pretty big celebrities are on their roster. I think Opie's the only one who didn't stick. So you want to tell me that's about how much money he was making? Maybe that's true. He was making a lot of money in radio. Maybe that's it. But it just seems odd to me that every other celebrity thought it was worth their while to be on Westwood One.
Well, I think
Not
it's because
Opie.
they're celebrities. So here's the difference. So you got a radio guy who's doing a radio show, and then you have celebrities who don't know from how much they should be making by doing something where they're talking. You know, I
That
think
could be
he
it.
comes from a different space, so that he understands how much they're making as a percentage of how much he's bringing in, and maybe he wasn't bringing in that much. Who knows? You know, I've not found the show interesting. His shows where he's just walking around, talking to people, I think is utter bullshit. And
What a douche.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so my last story I am asked to ask you about is when you got sucker punched by a guy from the Misfits. Now, I just have to, it's okay. So just, Karl is good looking when next to Mo. Ah,
saw
oh, so funny. Ah.
Thanks, muttering Jay as Cardiff.
So I just want you guys to see, because I just found this like really cute and amusing, is that this is the band that they were opening for, which is the Misfits. Yes. Okay. So
Correct.
This to me is amazing, because I don't see how you guys would be the ones that are opening for this band. So let me show you his cute little Nerdlestein band, because they are kind of cute in their isotopy way.
Yeah.
So
We
this
dress
is-
like nerds. We dress like scientists. Yeah, we're the
Totally.
isotopes.
So is
So-
this so that when they put a blue light on, you guys will fucking glow?
No, it's just.
Oh,
it's,
come on.
it's
Come
not,
on.
We do have our own light guy, but no, that's not what the reasoning
And
behind it
is this why you like Shuli so much? Because some of the guys in your band look like him a little bit? Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm totally like into dudes.
And this one looks like Mike Buschetti a little bit.
Yeah, Mo, you got me. I like Shuli because he's so hot. I just like hot guys. Yeah,
This guy
you
looks
totally
like
got
Mike
me.
Buschetti.
Oh, that's rough. Wow, which one are you saying looks like Mike Buschetti? I'm gonna tell him
The
where you
second the
live.
guy to the left of you.
Yeah, okay. That's producer Chris, by the way, from Who Are These Podcasts.
Oh,
And
he looks much better now. He
Next to him
looks-
is Croge, who's also a regular on Who Are These
Croge?
Podcasts. Yeah,
Croge?
Croge.
So a lot of people you have on your podcast were actually friends with you before you went on to this. Yacht Rock.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that like Trucker Andy, Vinny Paulino, Croge, producer Chris, like all these people who are regulars on the show, I've been in bands with, or Vinny's a stand-up comedian. I've done like shows with him and stuff. But it's interesting because we've always had this rapport where we just bullshit each other and try to make each other laugh.
I love
so
it.
it was very natural to just start a show together and to have people on. So it's worked out very well for that reason.
Somebody wants you to answer a question with that won't do. And I'm sure they're going to use this for good and not
I was
evil
told
and not
I was
good.
told to do that, and I didn't do it. I'm sorry.
All right, so let me ask you a question, and then you can
Yeah.
you can
Okay.
answer
You
it
set
any
me up for this? All right.
way you want to. So, Karl, is it true that your wife is cheating on you?
That won't do. See, I did it. I did what I was told to do. My wife is not cheating on me. And I love that John made that up because it actually is one of the funnier things he's ever done.
That was pretty fucking funny.
Yeah. He's repeated it on multiple shows now too.
Oh,
and Then
really?
then he was tweeting that I cheated on her first and that's why she's cheating on me. So I don't know if he's having fun with it or if he just like you believes everything someone tells him. I don't know.
What do you mean, like me? I believe everything
Yeah, because
somebody
you're,
tells
you're
me.
like, oh, I know Shuli's goofing on me on Reddit because
You know
someone
what?
told me that.
Fuckface. Okay, so the same person who sent me the John calling me the C word is the person who told me that we have it on good authority. We believe that this is Shuli on.
So his first name rhymes with lion? Is that what you're telling me?
And he doesn't mean any harm to anybody, but
I get it. I see what you did there. I like that. Are we going to read through any of the super chats that came in? I feel bad. People are
oh my God,
donating all this money, and we should probably answer questions. Not that I want to be here all day, but
okay,
I always feel obligated that people are
Monique, you're
giving
giving airtime to a club-footed smile talker. It's the definition of generosity. You are the best. I'm really not the best. You know what? He was generous enough to reach out to me and come on the show because of course I knew he wanted to talk about Stuttering John, and there were other things I wanted to talk about. So I think it was a win-win for us. So
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
More phlegm.
Long overdue, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. To begin with, Shirley's voice has an annoying tone, very nasal. It's like a male Kamala Harris. Then he's uninteresting and unfunny on top. Not everyone is meant to be a host or an entertainer. Shirley isn't. I think though.
Who are these podcasts? White power.
He does a spot on high pitch impression though. You got to give him that.
Who are these podcasts? The Holocaust wasn't real.
I played that for Vinny the attorney, and he thought it was high pitch. And Vinny hangs out with high pitch. That's how good of an impression that is.
God, that's amazing.
Hi,
Okay,
this
wait.
is
So,
High Pitch Eric, and you're listening to Who Are These Podcasts? Chinese
Why?
people smell.
why isn't Shirley on Cameo anymore?
I don't know. If that's really that. I don't know.
Okay, because we went there because somebody wanted to give me a cameo from Shirley.
You know what? I'll tell you this. I'll tell you why I'm not on Cameo. Not that I would make a ton of money on Cameo.
Oh, why aren't you on Cameo, Karl?
Producer Chris says, Mike Buschetti. People are watching. Because honestly, Cameo is for people who are the butt of the joke. Like, Stuttering John doesn't realize this. Every time he's on Cameo, he's being goofed at. He's like reading what they tell them to read. He's not in on the joke. Like, I would never do that. It's not a fun
Well,
thing.
high pitch too, but guess what? That
He doesn't
fucker is
care.
making like a shit
Yeah.
ton of money.
No, for him, it makes sense. Of
It
course.
totally makes sense. But literally, he's making like $125,000 a year. I heard.
Oh yeah. No, I know he makes it. Probably not anymore because no one's listening to Howard anymore. But for
Well,
a while,
that's exactly
there,
right.
he
That's
was doing
exactly
very
right.
well.
Okay, I think I have no more. Oh, we were supposed to talk about you getting sucker punched, but I was so fixated on your green ties and the Mike Buschetti thing that I couldn't.
I'll
get
tell you
past
real
that.
quick. If you want to hear the full story, I broke it down on a Patreon episode. So if you sign up for patreon.com/who are these podcasts for as low as $5 a month, you get
look at that.
all of our bonus content.
Look at
But what's
that
great about this story, Monique, is that, like I said, I treat everything like a roast. So the Isotopes open for the Misfits. And we have the Isotopes announcer. We don't talk on stage. We pre-record everything, and there are these jokes we play in between songs. We're an instrumental band. We don't talk. So these jokes were all goofing on the Misfits. I thought they'd be like in the green room. There's a green room upstairs at this venue. I didn't think they'd be anywhere near us. They were all standing in the back with their arms folded like, fuck these guys. So when we got off the stage, they tried to start a fight with each one of us. And myself and Crows both got sucker punched by this guy. And then guess who got kicked out of the venue? We did.
You did.
Why am I getting kicked out?
Because you look like the guys who can be kicked out of the fucking club. That's why.
Yeah. No,
That's
it makes sense. But anyway,
You're the
on
guys waiting online at Studio 54 that would never, ever, ever get in.
when we told the story on this bonus episode, I played all the jokes, all the clips that we had, and we went through the whole story. And it's actually a very fun story. It's worked out well for me. I was doing radio interviews after that. It turned into a fun anecdote.
Hey, I have a question. How many people did you wind up having at your live show?
We got about 200 people at both of them so
Amazing.
far.
That's great.
Yeah.
So
We
what made
did,
you decide to
we
do
did
that? Because I would
Chicago.
never have the balls to do that.
We did Chicago last year and Nashville this year, and we're gonna do Detroit and New York coming up. The reason why is because I had teased it, and then a professional promoter reached out to me who's a fan of the show and said, Karl, if you want to do this, I can help you out. I do this, and he threw out all these acts that he does promotions for and sets up shows for us. I was like, yeah, all right, cool, let's do it. So yeah, our first show was in Chicago. Our biggest markets are New York City and Detroit. So when we've done live shows so far, the vast majority of people who come are coming from out of state. They travel to come see us.
Amazing.
Which is asking a lot. And I appreciate that they do
You have to
that.
appreciate it, of course.
I do
So when are
very
you doing the
much.
New York thing?
I haven't set it up yet, but I was actually talking to, ready for a little name drop. Hold on, let me hit my...
Go for it.
I was talking to Eric Nagel, E-Rock, former producer of Opie and Anthony.
Yeah.
And he's got some connections to some great venues in New York. So we're talking about doing that. And I was also talking to my buddy Drew Lane from the Drew and Mike show. He's got some connection to Detroit. So I don't know when those things are going to happen because you know what's happening right now, Monique?
No.
I'm kind of bummed out because I'm ready to go. Like, let's do live shows, go here and there and there. Everyone's doing live shows now, so they're backed up for years because of the pandemic. So I talked to these venues, and they're like, yeah, we have every Saturday booked through 2023. Like, oh, okay, well, that sucks.
So that's curious. So why don't you just make it into a fucking block party or something? Like, just do something fun like that.
Ronnie's block party? Maybe I can go to
Totally.
Vegas.
Come on,
Get
how
Ronnie
fucking
to
fun.
come up. We'll
How
fuck some
fucking
whores.
funny would that be? Seriously.
That'd be awesome. Could you
would be
imagine getting
fucking
scolded
amazing.
on the air that next Monday? Ronnie did something this weekend. I can't do a Howard impression.
You know you can't do an impression at all.
No, not
Sorry.
even close.
Is there anything else that we want to look at in the chat? Carl, do the Stuttering John Broadway play.
I would do that.
You guys can go to Chuck E. Cheese. So, Dr. Steve, I don't think I've actually really established who you are. I know you were on our show the other day, or you were talking to us the other day, and I don't know who you are. Oh, somebody wanted to ask.
You don't know Dr. Steve? He's been on Howard Stern a number of times.
You know, I don't.
He's the resident doctor that calls in and gives him the information about fluids and things.
I don't.
He also has a show on SiriusXM called Weird Medicine.
Look at you knowing more about Dr. Steve than I
Dr.
did.
Steve's
I know
my
I asked him
buddy.
that the other
He
day.
came to both our shows. Chicago Lombard's coming up to Rochester for our roast. That's coming up in
Really?
September. Yeah, we're doing a roast in September. by the way.
Disappointed that you didn't wear the Dabbler's hat. Fuck, where is that hat? Do I even have it
you
here?
dropped the ball on that.
I really, really did. I'm sorry. I don't have it here. Wait, maybe I do. No, I don't have it here. I'm sorry, guys. I just thought, I've done it twice, so I was I'm
Yeah,
kind
we
of
get it.
over it a little
We
bit.
get it. We get
Not
the
gonna
joke.
lie. What does Karl have to say about Stuttering John being drunk on his and other people's shows?
I love it.
Of course you do, because it's good
It's
for
my
business.
favorite. It's my
Of course
favorite.
you do. Of course you do. Dr. Steve is famous in Ireland.
You know what else is really funny that's happening
What?
right now?
What?
You know, Stuttering John never cleans under his fingernails. I'm sure you've seen this.
Yes, I've seen that.
So
yes,
people
I
are putting together these photoshops now where he works at Jiffy Lube, and they're showing him as because that's what a mechanic's fingernails would look like.
Well, it's the pointing finger thing that always, it's just,
It's so gross, like a little off center, and it's like. Ugh.
You know what the shame is? It's actually I am actually saddened for John. I really am. I'm sad that he's not self-aware enough to see that he is fodder for so many jokes. I'm so all over this Melendez paradox. It's not even fucking funny now because I keep thinking about it like a little Russian nesting doll, like how amazing it is. Monique, come to the roast September 17th in Rochester.
Yes.
That might be a little far for me. So September 17th, I guess, Who Are These Podcasts are doing a roast. So what do? You basically go on stage and you pick out some random things to kind of pick on? What is it?
So we're doing a full-on roast, and it's myself and Vinny, the two co-hosts of The Creep Off, which is our reality true crime show. I shouldn't say reality. It's a true crime show for men, which there's no other one that exists in the world. All true crime shows are for women. We do one for men.
Absolutely they are. Absolutely they are.
Yeah. So we're doing a roast. It's going to have myself and Vinny, and we're going to have all the people who are regulars on Who Are These Podcasts, and some of Vinny's stand-up friends coming on. And it's a full-on roast. We've already sold out all of our front tables with VIP tickets. So get your tickets now. I got to find the URL here. Give
it to me and I'll post it on the bottom
second.
of this show as well.
All right. I appreciate that. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on what this URL is, but I'll find it.
Wait, so how many people does this place fit that you're...
So we're doing it at the Comedy at the Carlson, which is the local comedy club here in Rochester. We're doing it. There's multiple rooms in there. Mm-hmm. We're doing it in the Rickles room, which I think holds about 150.
The Rickles room?
The Rickles room. Yeah. Vinny, if you're still watching, text me the URL because I'm not finding it in my notes right now. I'm doing it really bad. I'm going to get scolded so bad.
Carl with a C. I love it when you're on Kumia.
Oh,
so how often do you go on Kumia? Do you come into the city?
Yes. Yeah. The last time I came in to see Billy Joel and I swung by and hung out with Anthony that Monday. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of fun. We were doing song parody contests for both Opie and Stuttering John. So we played some of our song parodies that have been coming in, and that was a great time.
Delicious. Have Kumia on. So we did have Kumia on, and it was horrible. We did a horrible interview with him. Grace, who used to do the show with me, got completely blindly shit-faced drunk and just started kind of like stumbling over her words as she was trying to like get a thought out to talk to Kumia about, and it was an absolute disaster. So yeah, I would love to have him on again at some point. I'm not sure he would ever do my show, but that's okay. I'm good without it. That's fine.
Creep off roast. Thank you, Tab.
What is it?
I knew somebody would help me out here. He goes, fucking embarrassing. Tab. He goes, creepoffroast.com is where you can get tickets
Creep
for September
off
17th.
Roast. Creep off.
September 17th, that's the roast that we're doing here in Rochester, which will be a lot of fun.
Okay, creepoffroast.com.
Yes.
Okay, so go there if you want tickets to see Karl and crew in Rochester doing what he does here, but doing it live. No, I am absolutely not taking calls at the end of this fucking show. There's not a shot of that happening. You know, I can't get my shit together with taking the calls from you guys. You're horrible. Radio Gunk 100, you have to interview Kumia one-on-one, so it'll stay radio and not politics. You're good at that. Yeah, I don't do a politics show. I don't really give a shit about politics. I'm really kind of over that.
What a
completely.
waste of time talking about
Such
politics.
a colossal waste of time.
Oh my God.
I avoid it like the plague. I try to be very apolitical. I don't really care how you feel or what your thoughts are on anything. I really don't.
I don't either.
The only people I care about is when I have to fight with my fucking mother or when my father was alive and, we yell at each other. But other than that, Dr. Steve loves talking about fluids. Anyone here see Gringo Poppy yet? Real good stuff.
No, it's not.
What is that?
Gringo Poppy is the new stand-up special from Brendan Schaub, and it might be the worst stand-up special to ever exist.
Okay, I really want nothing to know about it. I did find it funny that Muttering John guy is now pulling up every single acting job that the guy who works with the chubby McDonald's guy, like that he's been pulling.
Gabe. Yeah, Gabe Sanchez. This guy is goofy. I'll get into it all tomorrow. He's making fun of my band, The Isotopes. This guy, Gabe, he's never seen it before, but he's like, what do they suck? I've watched Gabe's acting reel. He's terrible. It's embarrassing.
Okay, sorry, Gabe. Sorry, didn't really mean to go there, but yeah, okay, I'm sure it's horrible. All right, so I guess we're gonna wrap up, and yeah, Karl, thanks
for having me.
I hope you weren't upset that I was calling you Kevin from Why Do I Podcast. I thought that was the funniest thing in the world. I think you should make a T-shirt that says that.
Oh, it's so funny calling me Kevin instead of Karl. What a great joke. He used to call me
know.
Carla instead of
know.
Karl.
Why
Also
Do I
a great
Podcast?
joke.
Why Do I
Good
Podcast?
one.
Yeah,
Good one,
so,
guys.
okay, sorry about that. Gabe is as embarrassing as Gringo Poppy.
Possibly.
Karl just told you how Howard Stern knows about Radio Gunk. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, I haven't really been reading these, but what we're going to do is after the show, maybe on Sunday or something, I'm sure BonJovial will take it down and do a enhanced chat edition, which, by the way, when we do that, they are like the best shows because all the chats will like come up on here. Just like a nice flow.
That sounds terrible. I mean, I believe you that it's great, but it sounds like a terrible idea.
You know why? Because the chat is like the best thing that we do. I mean, people spur us on from this, and it's just quite delicious. So I love everything about it.
Good. My friend Drew
for
Lane,
you.
who's hosted a talk show, actually he beat Howard Stern in Detroit many times, has always said, if you do a show that is dominated by callers, you must be terrible at doing a show. The host should be better than the callers at doing a show.
Oh my God, agreed. But the chat, since we've missed the entirety of it,
yes,
is just
there have been
something
some
that
funny
people,
things. Yeah.
are things that people need to see. That's what it's about. I mean, because we have Twitch and YouTube on right now. Do you get people from Facebook? I'm just curious. Is that like a thing for you?
We have a Facebook group that cropped up. I do have a Facebook page, but we don't broadcast on Facebook.
You don't? Okay, because I don't either. I was just curious if that was something that you guys would do. Karl, are you on the RG forum?
I'm not, but I've gone on there from time to time and read some threads about me. But I don't have an account on there. No.
I don't think anything was really bad about you. If anything, people will post your show so that they can go to it. And, like John used to get really upset with me that people were posting this show on my website. And I was like, John, how is that a bad thing for you if people are clicking onto your show? Like, how is that ever bad? Regardless of what they're saying about it, how is it ever bad to have somebody click on your show? Like, he didn't
That's the other thing. The amount of effort he's put into making sure that his stand-up never shows up on the internet. It's like, dude, you're putting way too much effort into this. Just let things happen. And
Just let it go. Just let it go. Everything is fine. Let's just.
Today we'll be reviewing a podcast called Radio Gunk. This podcast was 5 hours long. They play clips of Howard Stern, and then these three hosts. I didn't catch their names. I'm going to call the woman Dummy. There's so
That's me. There you go. Dummy. So thank you, Karl, for coming on.
thanks for having me.
I appreciate this. I thought this was fun, and I'm sure I'll be getting some texts and some emails with some hate in it after this, but that's okay.
Whoarethese.com. Thanks so much, Monique. It was great talking to you.
Whoarethese.com. All right.
That's right.
Awesome, Karl. Thank you so much. I appreciate you
you.
coming on, and have a great day. Bye. All right, guys. So you saw him, and yeah, I would like to. Karl G trashing me. Did I trash you? Who are you? Oh, did I say you're Michael? You look like Bush. I don't really mean that. Your head looked kind of super square in that particular picture, so I don't really mean that. I'm really sorry. Guys, we will do an enhanced edition of this at some point in the near future. If you have any comments or questions about the show, by all means, come on to Radio Gunk. And Monique Karl's gone. Let's trash him now. I don't really have anything to say about him that would trash him. I don't really, I don't agree with Shuli. I don't agree with Shuli being a intrinsic part of that show. I think Shuli is just, just grabbing onto the hate John train to make himself a little bit more popular. And if that's what has to happen, who fucking cares? Like I really don't care. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got. And you should have Stuttering John's Roaches on your show. That's an excellent idea, Dr. Gallicaquid. Okay, I am not even going to attempt to say that. All right, guys, that's it for our show. Let me play it out a little bit now. It's so weird when I do a show without the boys. It's kind of different for me, but I love this. So thanks for participating, and we'll see you next week for Today Tonight shows. Thanks for hanging with us tonight. Please join us for any discussion at radiogunk.com in the forum section. Follow us on Instagram or Twitter at Radio Gunk. And don't forget to like this and subscribe to us and hit that little bell so that you know when we're going to have a new show. Thanks.